Divine greetings, ones and zeros, zeros and ones, boys and girls that are now men and women, kings and queens, gods and goddesses, spiritual beings of this divine matrix. Welcome. My name is Clay. Today I share with you an overview of my spiritual awakening through schizophrenia that began in the year 2020, the great pandemic. A perspective I have of the great pandemic of 2020 is that it is World War III. I say World War III because it is a war on the collective consciousness of humanity, as World War I and World War II was before. The year 2020 is also recorded as the year 2012 according to the Ethiopian record keeping, the Mayan record keeping, and other ancient indigenous peoples of the earth. The catastrophe of human consciousness that led to the big C of the pandemic is a symptom of the cosmic foretelling of the ages. I offer the previous narrative to ground us in me sharing my understanding and how it is that I developed schizophrenia. According to modern science, schizophrenia is a chronic, severe brain disorder where a person has detached from reality. Detached from reality, marked by symptoms like hallucinations, delusions, disorganized thinking, and a reduced ability to function normally. There is no cure, and it can be managed with treatment, which typically includes medication, therapy, and psychosocial rehabilitation. My definition of schizophrenia is that it is a recording of lies in the soul that causes truthful manifestations of dysfunctions that offer symptoms of hallucination, delusions, and disorganized thinking. I say there is a cure for schizophrenia, and it is the undoing of the lies in the soul to be rewired in truth according to the soul's contracted agreement to represent love. And I'm working on this definition. This is how I see that schizophrenia is represented through my experience. With my definition held in mind, through spirituality, I am able to function as a wholesome individual rather than a fractal member. I'm going to share with you one of the major lies that I told myself and was reaffirmed growing up. And I'm sharing this lie to show the importance of correcting a lie or rewiring the lies in the soul to be truthful so that we can have a clear mental cognition, so that our mentality is seen rather than insane. When I was 4 years old, let me go back. I grew up in a household that initially began with a mother and a father, a husband and wife. And at 4 years old, my father decided to leave the household to go to America to support the family. Needless to say that when he left for America, he would not return to the family. Subsequently, as things developed, there was a divorce and things like that. With that being said, I hadn't seen my father more than 5 times in over 16 years. And I was not aware in that time that what that represents is abandonment. When I was about 35 years old, I was in conversation with my wife, and she was saying that, as I explained, or as she know my story, she was saying that he abandoned the family, he abandoned me. And when she said that, I took offense to it. I wanted to protect the lie that I had told myself, that my father was present, that I had a good father. He provided for us, he nurtured us, he cared for us. So I wanted to defend that situation. It wasn't until we had further conversation after I had calmed down, because I was angry, I was upset that she was accusing my father of being an absentee father. So it wasn't until afterwards that we could have a conversation. And in that conversation, I still held that he was a good father, he was a present father. It wasn't until after the mental breakdown, which led to schizophrenia after 2020, after the pandemic, that I came back and I was diagnosed with schizophrenia. And in this broken state, I was receiving therapy. And in receiving therapy from a clinical therapist, along with spiritual guidance from my wife, we were doing inner childhood work. And as we were doing inner childhood work, I came to the realization that this truly is abandonment. And in coming to the realization and recognition that this is abandonment, what my father had done to the family was abandonment, I saw the anger in my 4-year-old. He left when I was 4 years old, and it was at that point that my 4-year-old decided to protect me with the lie that my father is going to be present. And once he never showed back up, or once he never came back to the household, to the home, to live, I never corrected that lie until now, until receiving therapy. So that shows the importance of correcting a lie. And I'll go further in describing or discussing that to show the importance. So my father left the home when I was 4 years old. I went to live with him again when I was 20 years old to go to college. Between 4 and 20 years old, at 16 years, I saw him about 5 times. 16 times 365 days, that's over 5,000 days. And during those 5,000 days, I saw him 5 times approximately, and I spoke to him maybe 10 times over the phone or something like that. So that is to show the degree of abandonment that I was not consciously aware of. In me being now consciously aware of it, I still feel the anger in my 4-year-old's misappropriated ego, in the unhealthy ego. Now, one of the things that I'm continuously correcting is the happiness. So I grew up, and in my growing up, I'm thinking that I had a happy childhood. However, I'm seeing that which I thought was happiness was not happiness, because I was saying that I'm happy that I have a father. I'm happy that I have a mother that supports my father and a father that supports my mother. And in me being happy in that sense, I was lying to myself, because my father was not there. And my mother was supporting the narrative that my father was present. So I'm putting the blame. I don't want to say blame. I'm putting the unconsciousness on my mother and myself and my father. Me for saying that my father was present. My mother for supporting that he was present, not saying that he abandoned the family, or she didn't present any information to me that said that he's not a good father. In truth, she presented information saying that he is a good father. He did provide somewhat financially for the family, and she protected that status. And he also protected that status because he provided financially. So for them, this was the primary thing, finances. And as a result, they presented him as a good father. Me being 4 years old, I wanted to have my father in the home. However, I accepted that he wasn't there, and he was a good father because both my mother and my father said so. And I in myself chose to believe that. Come to find out now that I'm seeing that that is abandonment. And I'm seeing also that I had painted a picture of me being happy, because I went about being happy in a fearful state, though, in a state of illusions and delusions, because that's what I was in. I was in a state of illusions and delusions, saying that I had a present father. Even when I went to school, I would say, yes, my father is in America. Do you have a father? They would ask, what is your father doing? He's a mechanic. He does this and this. Do you love your father? Of course, I love my father, and things like that. So I presented to the outside world when I went to school that I have a present father. And within my consciousness, that's what I have. I have a present father. So now that I am consciously aware that he was not a present father, all the energy that was put into protecting that status is activated. And it makes me angry to know that I was not being loved the way that I thought I was being loved. And that does a whole lot of things to the psyche. There's a lot of mental rewiring that has to take place, at least in my psyche, that I have to take place in correcting. Now, that being said, another aspect of me sharing this is, as I'm working in my mentality, as I'm rewiring my mentals to not use the lies that I told myself before, one of the things that I see is on a countrywide basis. As a child growing up in Jamaica, they told us that Jamaica received independence from Britain in 1962. Now, they also told us that that meant that as a people that went through slavery, we were freed. We had been given our independence. We no longer needed Britain to do anything. That's the picture they painted in school. That's the picture painted by the educators. That's the picture painted by the politicians. That's the picture painted by the adults. That's the picture painted by every one, except for the Rastafarian culture. I don't like saying Rastafarian. The Rastas would teach differently. However, I was encouraged to stay away from Rasta by my father and supported by my mother. Anyways, I'm coming to see, or I have since seen, that that is a lie. Jamaica never received independence. It received independence in terms of on paper. However, in actuality, Jamaica never received independence. And one of the one of the things that clarifies this for me is that as a people, one of the things that matters to everyone that is taught is the basic needs. To have the basic needs, you need to have food, clothes, and shelter. Having food, clothes, and shelter will satisfy or will open up the root chakra. Therefore, you won't be living in a state of fear or in a state of survival. You'll more live in a state of thriving. To have food, clothes, and shelter, you need land. Everybody knows this. To the enslaved people, they could only work the land that the colonizers, the enslaver, gave to you. right? Now, one of the things that Rasta says is that now that the colonizers have left, or now that the enslavers have left, everyone should be entitled to a piece of land. Now, when I look at this and see that this is not the case in Jamaica, because if you go and occupy a piece of land, they'll call you squatters. Culturally, the political infrastructure is set up to punish anyone who does that. So, rectifying the lie that was told that Jamaica received independence, let me go one more point. Also, the highest court in the land of Jamaica is not in Jamaica. The highest court is in Britain. So when someone breaks the law, so to speak, or is charged with breaking the law, Jamaica is not the final say. You have to go to Britain to have the final say. And this is another proof that Jamaica is not independent. However, in our minds as a people, we say that Jamaica is independent, and this is a lie. Now, this makes me upset also, just like my father left the household and I had in my mind that I had a present father. It's a similar situation where in the context of Jamaica, I'm saying that I thought we were freed as a people to be independent, sovereign beings. Come to find out that is not the case. So that initiates a series of anger within myself because I was not consciously aware. Now I'm consciously aware. I must rewire my brain. I must rewire my mental. This is what Marcus Garvey said: emancipate yourself from mental slavery, which Bob Marley put that into a song and it became a very famous song. As you emancipate yourself from mental slavery, it's the process of rewiring the mental to undo the lies that you've told yourself so that you can have a truthful manifestation of the being that you are. So you can be without lies. And this will allow the person, in my case, one of the things that I saw that I was being is not only schizophrenic, but narcissistic. I do my best to not wear a mask anymore. So that is correcting the lies. Now, as I see this and as I'm rewiring my mentality, one of the things that I see in society, in or on the earth, as a major lie that most people suffer from, unless you're consciously aware of it and you practice not using the lie, is the year. They say we're in the year 2020. However, Ethiopia and the Mayans and other indigenous peoples of the earth, ancient peoples of the earth, show the record keeping to be the year 2012. The Gregorian calendar, which states that we're in the year 2020, also shows records. If you go to Google, you'll see that it was changed and it was updated in previous years with Pope Gregory the 13th and all these things. You can check it out on Google if you so choose. My point here is that in me now understanding that what lies do, if I do not abide by the truth in the collective consciousness, which is that it's not the year 2020, it's actually the year 2012 according to collective consciousness, then that represents a form of insanity in my mind that will cause untruthful manifestation in my behavior. They'll say I'm crazy, which it is a form of madness. So that is what I would like to share in this episode. I don't know if I want to say episode. Episode is usually or can be tied to a crazy episode, a schizophrenic episode, a bipolar episode. And that is what I would like to share in this sharing. So, as I close out this recording, I say Ashe, Amen, and Namaste. Each one, reach one, teach one.